poppin', y'all?
Hey y'all!
Hello everybody!
So today we are going to be talking about the hijabi influencer space and how the hijabi community is affected by it.
Alright, so I'm back. Thanks for having me guys back on here. I thought I maybe had some relevant things to share. Actually, I'll start you guys off with the whole reason why Renda told me I should come on here was because, one day I was just minding my own business, scrolling through Instagram, and I see this girl's story, and she posted something, she's a hijabi, but she posted it from someone else. I don't know who wrote the passage. So I was reading the passage. It was about Muslimas and hijabis who started off their career and started off their social media platforms as hijabi influencers, right? And so they, did fashion and all of that stuff, lifestyle sort of content. And then they ended up taking it up. And, we've seen that happen, and who cares? You know what I mean? Like, at least that's my perspective on it. And I guess that just sums up this whole video. But basically, her whole passage was saying about how this is a terrible thing, about how there should be more accountability, how they're influencing the younger generation and like girls who, still maybe haven't formed their opinion on hijab and if they want to wear it or not. And this needs to be something that should stop. We need to hold these people accountable for their personal, for their personal things that don't harm anybody. But anyways, and then she ended up the whole statement, and I was like, okay, maybe she had an argument there, you know what I mean? Like, maybe this was something to discuss. She ended off the whole statement saying, I'm saying this as a non-hijabi, just so you know, this is not radicalization. So her point is saying is that because she's saying this as a non-hijabi, people will more likely want to take her point of view because, she's not trying to radicalize everyone and quote unquote, for people who are just listening, quote unquote radicalize and try to, get all women and girls to wear hijab. She's saying, oh no, I'm not even wearing it, but this is my point of view, and me not wearing it makes my point of view more valid for some reason. So that's the gist of her paragraph. I wish I screenshot it, but that would be a little too much. But anyways, I turned into a very angry person. I was just frustrated. I came upstairs from where I was sitting, and I was like, I found Renda, and I just started like venting. And she was like, are you done venting? Well, you know that Priyanka Chopra meme? She's like, are you done venting now? And I was like, no. And she was like, well, you should come on our podcast and finish venting there. So that's the little backstory of why I'm here.
I just want to add, her saying that, oh, I'm not a hijabi, therefore my point is valid. You guys should even consider it even more, is saying that even if that's basically undermining us at the end of the day too, because she's basically saying that if we spoke, if we had a point of view, it had nothing. It didn't matter.
Right. And I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but
yes,
basically what she said was, I'm not a hijabi, so this is not from a point of view of radicalization. And somehow saying that, like, her not being a hijabi made this opinion more valid because this has nothing to do with me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I have no agenda to push. So
and I think, yeah. And like, again, maybe she didn't, when she wrote that, like, last sentence, maybe she didn't really think about it as much as she should have. But like, especially that she's a non-hijabi, it's kind of like she's saying, oh, it's the duty of these influencers to keep their hijab on, but it's not my duty. Like, it's not something that's, because Islam is it's across the board for everybody. It's not something that like we get to pick and choose who's responsible of practicing what. And so as a non-hijabi, if you go tell a hijabi woman she's not allowed to take it off, it doesn't make sense.
It comes back to policing women's bodies.
Yeah, like it just doesn't make sense.
So that was something that really, really frustrated me because I saw it so much, especially with Dina Tokyo, for example, who was very, very prevalent, and she still is prevalent in the modest space. Her clothing still caters to people who wear hijab and people who don't wear hijab and still want to be modest, to what is that influencer number that you love?
Asia.
Asia as well, who had also removed her hijab, although she kept telling people, don't claim me, don't put me in the hijabi space because people were being very toxic there. But, and just like a bunch of other people, but I have my opinion formed on this situation, but I don't want to be the only one talking, so maybe it's mean.
Um, See, I think people need to realize that hey, they're an influencer, they're not some holy person. They're just because they have the influence name beside their name, that doesn't mean anything. They're still a human being, they're still going through stuff. It, they're going through stuff that you're going through. Like, it doesn't mean like they're some holy person, So you need to humanize what they feel. You can't look at them or even hold them accountable for those kind of actions. Because, like, on the daily basis, people who aren't even influencers, I don't think
Decide
that
it's
point
just
makes
not for
sense.
them.
Yeah.
It makes sense. So it makes sense. Like, here's the thing. If you're somebody who's never worn hijab before, um, even look like listen, even if you're a part-time hijabi, like you're still part of the community, even if you wear a turban, you show your neck, whatever, like, but
Mm-hmm.
you have an attempt to cover your hair and do this modest thing for God, like you're part of our community as well, and like we all kind of have the same struggles, even though some people struggle more than others, and that's totally okay. But if you're
100%.
somebody who's not part of the space, you don't know what it feels like. You don't know what it feels like.
Yeah. You
There's
shouldn't
nothing
even
more to say.
comment. You shouldn't even comment on
You
it.
should, you should not have a
You should
comment.
you should ask questions, but you shouldn't write an essay about it. And then,
Exactly.
And if anything, support your hijabi sisters. Like,
yes.
they're already going through it. So you might as well cheer them on and be like, yes, sis, keep doing what you're doing. Because
Mm-hmm.
no one else tells hijabi women that.
Yeah.
I
Don't end it off that we are radicalized, basically, Like
basically,
that basically undermines the entire issue. All the points that you said in the beginning have no importance anymore.
Yeah.
she literally just destroyed her whole
Exactly.
argument. So
Exactly. Blossom and Randa. So, when you guys first got social media, how did you feel in regards to the hijabi Muslim influencer space? And would you say you were influenced by these individuals to continue wearing your hijab? Or were you influenced in other ways? Or did you just look at them as inspiration?
Do you want to go first, Lisa?
I can go first. Um, okay, I think when I first started wearing hijab, I wasn't really on social media, but as I got on social media and my sense of style started to change, we all reached this intermediary point in our life between like high school and uni or something like that, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, I have to start switching it up, and
Mm-hmm.
part of that is because of social media, right? Because um, you see how all these hijabi influencers are dressing, and you're like, that looks so cool, and it's modest, so I want to do that. So I feel like I never felt a negative influence really. I think the only thing I would have to say is the hijabi Muslim influencer space is very not intersectional. I don't know if that's the right word, but everyone looks the same. Everyone is like from the same part of the world, fair
Or at
skin.
least the ones who made it, you know?
The ones who made it, the ones who, I'm not, yeah, definitely not generalizing for every single person. I'm just saying the prominent people with the most followers who get the sponsorships. There's there you don't see so much as much as people cheer on some certain hijabi influencers, you don't see the support behind, um, for example, black influencers, whether they be like African Americans, for example, which is a huge, huge, huge Muslim community, and they have a lot of amazing influencers as well, or from people from Somalia, Eritrea, and stuff like that. Like, I also and like Sudanese influencers as well. I've started like following those influencers because I just feel like I can, understand their perspectives more, and we go through similar things, like, more so with African influencers, but there definitely is a hyperfixation on what the ideal hijabi girl looks like. And for the most part, Yasmin is nodding because like if you were to imagine what is the ideal hijabi influencer, it's not like people who are medium to plus size, people who have different complexions, they don't have perfect skin. So yeah, I think that's still something we need to be working on in the space. But these people are out there. You just have to go looking for them.
Mm-hmm.
I would say when I first started wearing hijab, I wasn't I wasn't very active on social media, Instagram specifically. And once I did start getting active on Instagram, you always like people tell you to follow people that resonate with your values and your ideals and stuff like that. So I went out of my way to, find Muslim influencers to follow. And what I found is that every time I would come and follow something and I would like follow their content, again, like people make this, I think especially in the Muslim community, people make this huge deal of following people that have your same values. But like I didn't resonate with any of these creators on on the level of like, oh, like do we have the same relationship with our faith? And so obviously when you're in high school, that's a bit confusing because again, you don't have a mature understanding of what even your relationship with your own faith is like. But then as I grew older, I realized that anyone, like any Muslim influencer, again, like there's a huge emphasis on like the Muslim part in the influencer space, but you're not supposed to resonate with them on their relationship with their faith because everyone's relationship with their faith is unique. You're never going to find anybody that practices your faith the same way that you do, and that's a normal thing. Yasmin practices it differently, I practice it differently, Balsam practices it differently. And so this whole idea that you need to follow people who resonate with your values, I kind of don't like that because I think you should just follow people who inspire you, you enjoy the content that they make, and that's it. And they make you feel good about yourself. Like you don't feel terrible after watching their content. But they don't necessarily have to look exactly like you, speak your language, practice their faith the same exact way that you do. It's totally fine, man. So yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. Uh, so when I first got social media and everything like that, I didn't have that pressure, or I didn't have that feeling that I need to dress this way or anything like that, because I know for a fact that if I did wear those clothes, I would not look nice. But no, imagine wearing that big jumper like Dina Tokyo and then like really nice baggy pants. I would not be able to rock that. Like I don't even have the height for it, you know? By the way, guys, I'm short. Anyways. So yeah, and I was not influenced, but I know for a fact I'm relating to Dina Tokyo a lot because she's the one that I followed for a really long time, and like on Instagram and everything. And so I wasn't influenced by her, but I connected with her a lot because the things that she was going through, I was going through. She stated so many times like, oh, I'm struggling with my prayer and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yo, that's me too. And like I felt like she was someone that I grew up with. Like, you know, like as she was growing, I felt like I was growing too. And like she she didn't influence me, but she inspired me to be a better person.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um Otherwise, I wouldn't say I was influenced or anything like that. And I agree with you, Balsam and Randa, with your points. And Balsam, the way you're saying like, oh, there's no space for like people of like plus size or like different ethnic groups and all that kind of stuff. That's really sad, but it's and they're there. It's just that they don't receive that wide support because there is still that that view and that image that that's not perfection.
They don't fit in the box.
Yeah, they don't fit in that box.
I was scrolling through TikTok the other day, and there's this girl, she does like compilation videos, or not compilation, but she puts like the green screen effect, and she puts like different pictures. And so she does like these features about girls. So someone's like, do one about hijab, and she was like, okay. So she's posting all these like beautiful influencers to drive home the point that hijabi girls are beautiful. But the thing is, every single hijabi girl on there looked the same. And that was just, and I saw that and I was like, that's just the norm. Like, that's just, like, it was not something that was shocking. I was like, oh, like, it's exactly what I expected of this video. Because, um, yeah, that's just the standard. They're like small, petite, fair skin, maybe have colored eyes. You know what I mean? Like, even I feel like for brown girls as well, you don't see as much.
Yeah, no, there's actually this one girl that, and she doesn't have much of a following, but she's like the only one that doesn't fit the typical like the typical hijabi influencer. She's like super like stuck to her religion and everything like that. She's like, "Oh, I don't do my eyebrows because it's not I shouldn't be doing my eyebrows." And like I'm like that's the first time I've seen that. And the first time when I saw it, I was low-key judging her. I'm like, "Why?" Like, you know? But then now that I think about it, I'm like, no, that's something good that she is being, she's not being different. She's doing what's right, you know? And the way she wears her hijab, the clothing that she wears, it's
Super modest.
it's super modest. Like, it's something that, like, I wouldn't even look at even trying to wear. But, like, she rocks it. And I'm like, damn. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
There is also like not much of a space for women who really choose to be super modest because it's just not trendy.
Yeah, and I feel really bad for her because like she has really good content, but like she doesn't have much of a following, and I'm like, she deserves a following. If people are looking for influence in the hijabi community, they should go to her. And
I'm saying, like,
yeah,
if you want someone who like, what's the word? Someone you want to look up to in terms of how they dress and stuff like that. Like, okay, fine, like go look for those influencers who are, very, they have a what's the word? Like they're very like strict with how they dress and what they do for the sake of Allah, and that's something to inspire, for sure.
hmm
Yeah.
you know, like I never knew about her, but when I was going through like my Dina Tokyo obsession and everything like that, I was also following Yasmin Mujahid or Mujahid. I don't know how you pronounce her last name, but like she was that influencer that I would say kept me close to my faith, you know? And then there was Linda Sarsour, who was also a hijabi. She was my influencer that I looked up to in like political matters and all that kind of stuff. But and the fact that she was wearing hijab too, and I'm like, I can be, if in the future, if I want to, I can be a politician, I can speak, I can be an activist, I can be a humanitarian wearing the hijab, you know? So we saying what I mean by saying that is that don't look at, find other influencers that are actually making, if you want to look up to someone and if you want to be influenced by them, go to someone that's actually making an impact in the community. Like there's journalists, there's so many other people, you know? You know what I'm
There's
trying to say?
an abundance of people on
Yes.
social media.
Yes.
Instead of you directing this energy towards being upset by someone who did something that didn't align with your personal values, it was a personal decision that they did and it didn't align with their personal values. Take that energy and go find other people, because
Yeah.
trust me, there's a ton. There's so many resources. There's a crazy amount of amazing, talented, amazing people out there. You just need to find them.
Turn that negative energy into positive energy.
Yeah, support someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. What's it called? Randa, me and you had this conversation too. Like you were like, someone said something about they feel very disheartened by um they feel very disheartened by many hijabi influencers taking their hijabs off.
Yeah, we were having a conversation and she was just like, I'm worried that wherever I want to go with my career or whatever it is, at some point it's going to challenge my hijab so much to the extent that I'm gonna have to take it off just so that I could like get where I want to be in my career. And I think that's the one thing about the hijabi community, like the influencer space, that like I feel like it tells hijabi women that the only way they can make it is if they become influencers and they become lifestyle bloggers. There's not enough advocacy for Muslim women to become scientists, engineers, social workers, doctors, lawyers, journalists, politicians, all of that stuff. There's not enough advocacy for that on social media. And so, and like this is like mainly directed at like younger Muslim girls, because I feel like now we're older, we've gone to university, we've kind of formed our own opinions. But when you're like a 14-year-old hijabi girl and you don't see and say you want to become a lawyer or whatever it is, and you go on social media and like the entire influencer space is just lifestyle blogging and makeup and fashion, which is wonderful, which is great. Like at the end of the day, representation is representation. But I just wish there was more, like I just wish that hijabi girls were told that there's a lot more value to them than just their appearance.
100%.
And trying to like make the hijab trendy, things like that. I mean, I think that's amazing, and it definitely helped me a lot, I guess. I don't know if helped is the right word, but I think it did give me some support knowing like you can wear hijab and still look amazing and still be modest. Like it's not, I think when you first start wearing the hijab, you're like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? You know what I mean? You're like, I don't know how to take this. I don't know how to wear this. You know what I mean? But then you look online, you're like, oh, there's actually many, many ways to wear it and feel comfortable in it and feel happy and things like that. But I definitely agree with you at this point.
You know, and I just want to add that don't make this a barrier for yourself. Don't let it stop you from achieving your dreams or going ahead in life. Let this empower you and let this push you even more.
Right. Because I think it could be a double-edged sword where you don't want to work in a space that is, for example, like male dominated and there is very little women to begin with. So I'm speaking like from my own personal experience as someone who's studying engineering, like it's a very male dominated space. And to add to that, very, very, very little hijabi women in the few women that are in the space, right? So it can be something that's a little daunting entering those spaces and being part of them, but either you can be daunted by it or you can take it as a challenge and be like, hey, like I'm gonna break the glass ceiling. I'm gonna do things that maybe other women weren't given the opportunity to do so because of their hijab. Like I want to create this path for future generations. I want to be that part of that force. So it's all about perception.
And again, this isn't to say that like your hijab is a barrier. It's more to say that society is the barrier.
Yeah.
It's just up to you how you want to see it.
How do you want to tackle life? Yeah. You know, since we're talking about that, since many hijabi influencers have stopped practicing the hijab, it has influenced many girls to also take it off because they look up to them. And the reason they've stated that the reason why they wore the hijab initially was because so and so was wearing it. So what would you have to say to them, to the people that took it off because of the influencers?
I would say, at the end of the day, it's your decision. And like,
Yes.
that's the end all be all of it. I'm not the one who's going to, take the hisab for it. That's not my relationship with Allah. Girl, like you do what makes sense to you in your interpretation of faith. It's your decision. It's free will. But I think something really, really, really important to note is a lot of us were exposed to social media at a very young age. And not all of us had guidance in terms of faith in the way that we wanted it to be. So by that I'm saying we didn't always have guidance for religion and faith in an open-minded space, in a comforting space. And so we went to social media and to find communities there. And I think that is kind of what led a lot of people in this path where they're just unsure about their faith, about their hijab, and how they want to practice religion. And to people like that, I would say, at the end of the day, that influencer is not responsible for your faith or for your actions. You're responsible for your faith and for your actions. So if if this is something that is really, really important to you, I would really recommend you talk. There are now, I'm seeing a lot of spaces open up where that are, for youth, and they're you know, you can find a lot through your MSAs as well, like the things that Yasmin and are running, like Musliha circles and things like that. Like there are those spaces, but at the end of the day, like I would say, go back to Quran and Sirah, and learn and understand your religion, not through an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
An influencer is not a religious scholar, even if she wears the hijab, and even if she talks about religious topics, because that's something that's important to her. She is not a scholar. Your faith is up to you. So that's what I'm saying. And I just thought I could highlight another point while we're here. A lot of kids, a lot of younger people were given access to social media at a very young age. And so like what I said, they went and they sought out these influencers and stuff. And if your kid right now is really, really struggling with their faith, to be honest, I have nowhere to put the blame except on the parents a little bit. If you gave your child access to social media, you really need to, hammer in the point. What's the word? Like really bring in the point and make them understand that influencers and what you're seeing online is not your deen. Your deen is what you go and learn on your own. So I think that's something that all parents should be really aware of. If you're giving your child access to social media, you really, 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 really need to make them understand and educate them that influencers are not the people to be following in the matters of deen. You can be inspired by some of them, like what we talked before. You can take some, fashion inspiration. You can take some, oh, they decide to do their ibadah in this way. Oh, that's actually a smart and fun idea that will help me, stay on my prayer schedule more, read the Quran. You can take those great positive things from them, but don't base your entire religious knowledge from it. So that concludes my statement.
I agree with that. I think parents need to be more on top of their children, and they also need to understand what the kids are exposed to on social media. That way those discussions are more prevalent and normalized. You talked about how the religion is their responsibility. It's not the influencer's responsibility. They're not a scholar, when you're taking the decision to wear the hijab, when you're taking the decision to dress up modestly, or to learn to lower your gaze and understand, like, there's certain things that you can't do because halal and haram, right? Don't base it off of influencer. Always do your research and do your own research, because that is your responsibility. So what Bassam is saying is really important. Read the Quran, try to understand it, and build your own perception and make your deen strong for yourself.
Your faith is totally personal. Take your time. Don't just jump into a decision because someone important in your life is making the same decision. Everyone's different. Don't feel pressured. Do your research. Take stuff on your own time.
Yeah.
Because again, like, faith is something that's really personal. And don't respond to any person who questions your faith. I don't think anyone's faith is ever questioned, even if they're an influencer with 10 million followers. Anything they decide to do with their faith is up to them, and that's their thing. And frankly, it's no one's business.
Just a reminder to everyone that every influencer that's on social media, the life that they display to society and everyone, it's not real. There's some masala in it,
It's a little superficial.
Yeah. So you need to understand that you need to keep people that are beside you to inspire you. For example, I have Randa with me, I have Balsam with me. Like, if I'm struggling through something, I go to them and I talk to them, and they'll give me advice and they inspire me to be better. So yeah.
I would just say, like, if you are, and I'm saying this from personal experience, I was one of those girls back in the day where if I saw a girl who was showing off like a half, like a bang, some girls wear their hijab like that, like they'll show like a bang, they'll show a portion of their hair, and I'd be like, I'm so sorry, first of all, but I would be like, she might as well take it off because, you know, that's not hijab.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I've gone through different life experiences, I've spoken to different people who were in, different phases in their life with hijab. Like some girls had just started wearing it, some girls worn it after a long time and decided it was not for them. After having all those and even personal experiences, because my relationship with my hijab has not always been linear and amazing, I've come to the conclusion that it's none of my business. And also, if you're someone right now who's struggling with like, you're wearing it part time, you're still trying to figure out your rhythm and how you want to go about it. If you're someone who struggles to not show all of their hair, like that's okay. You're still part of our community. If you wear a turban, you're still part of our community. I
Love you.
If this is something that you want,
Yes.
I really pray for you that Allah gives you the strength and you have the guidance and, the faith, the strength of your faith to wear it in the best way possible, but you are still part of our community. And to anybody out there who's saying people who wear it part-time, people who show part of their hair, people who do this and that, people who don't wear full-length sleeves are not hijabis, shut your damn mouth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, support other people. Don't take people down. The energy you're putting towards this rage and anger towards someone who never hurt you or did anything to you and is just expressing their faith in the way that's comfortable to them, put that towards giving them dua and positive energy and encouragement.
Yes.
And pray that Allah gives them the strength for them to wear the hijab as good as you wear it. If you wear it perfectly. But rarely do you see people who wear hijab in the most perfect way, right?
Yes. And I just to add on to what Balsam said, I personally, my hijab has been a roller coaster. So like I started off really tight, then changed my style, and then I loosened it up, and you would see a lot of my hair. And there were people that would come up to me. They're like, Yasmin, you might as well just take it off. And the moment you say that to me, it's like, yeah, like I might as well just take it off. And like they would be like, even that one comment, it would just make me feel so unwelcomed by the community, and it made me feel like, oh, like this community is so toxic. I don't even want to associate with the Muslim community anymore. And like those constant comments and that kind of stuff, it would push me away, and being like, oh, I don't want to be like this like, since everyone's being so judgmental, I don't think I should be a part of this community, and those comments have led to me thinking that, okay, I don't want to wear the hijab anymore. Little did they know that there was like a reason why that I had to loosen it up for a little. And my goal was that after my situation was done, I would go back into tightening it up. And ever since Ramadan, like this Ramadan, has been my goal, that Yasmin, you actually need to try tightening it up, So, and I'm working on it. You see, I'm coming with a new hijab style every single time.
As well, for people who are listening. And the underpiece that makes sure no hairs are slipping out.
Yeah.
I can't handle those. They hurt my ears.
I can't handle them either. But like with this chiffon hijab, I'm just like, I have no choice because my hijab will be right here. Yeah. Oh, thanks, girl, thanks. But yeah, so those kind of comments, they hurt me a lot. But then ever since like this year, when I started my third year of university, I met nicer people. I met new people. And Randa came in my life too. And like I would talk to her about these things. Yeah. It's a competition now. Anyway, so like Randa, like I talked to Randa and I told her how I felt and everything, and she made me feel good, and I'm like, okay, I'm more motivated to be back into the Muslim community. I'm more motivated to be better and show and not take their negative comments and turn it into negative energy and do negative things, get that negative energy, flip it upside down, turn it to positive energy, and push myself even further to be a better Muslim. Because at the end of the day, Allah's gonna ask me for my actions and how what I did to be a better Muslim. What did I do to serve him? So yeah.
100%. And you know what? Showing, sorry, Linda. Like, in terms of, if we want to look at this very technically, like, showing half of your hair and not showing the other is still less sin than showing all your hair.
Wearing it today and not wearing it tomorrow is better than not wearing it today and not wearing it tomorrow. I wanted to add to like what Yasmin was saying about like these comments. I hate how in the Muslim community people look at like, they don't consider the fact that hijabi women actually have a relationship with their hijab. Like when you tell a girl you should just take it off, that hurts. Because it's, for me as a hijabi, it's not just a piece of cloth. I actually have a relationship with it. And like thinking about like juggling with the idea of like keeping it on or taking it off, it's a hurtful thing to think about. It's not an easy thing to think about. And so that's like one thing that I hate is that people think that hijab is just, and unfortunately this happens a lot in the Muslim community, that the hijab is just a piece of cloth when it's a personal relationship. It's something you do, like it's something that you're doing for Allah, it's something that you're doing for your faith. So it's not just as easy as just taking it off and moving on with your life. And the other thing, but someone's talking about like supporting, you know, each other. I think one thing we really need to work on in our Muslim community is literally just supporting each other and not just coming for each other's necks. Because being a Muslim in the West is already hard enough. The last thing you need is to know that your community doesn't support you for the lamest of reasons. So if any Muslim community organizers are out there listening, please, for the love of God, be more forgiving. Let people live. Support your fellow Muslims no matter what. We're gonna be fine. It's not that deep.
Yeah, like if you're not supporting, if you're constantly saying so many negative things, you're pushing people away, and that's Allah's gonna ask you like, what did you do to help this person? What are you gonna say? You know?
And at the end of the day, Allah is the most forgiving. Like as a human being, how can we sit here and judge people when Allah says, I am the most forgiving?
And that's the thing, like, people judge so harshly. Again, this is a patriarchy thing, where we judge women extremely harshly, and men have a hijab too, and ain't nobody asking them about that. But that's a discussion for another day. But women are judged extremely harshly. Hijabi women are judged very, very harshly. And people forget that hijab is not one of those things that right when you die, you get asked about. The things that you get asked about are your prayer. How did you spend your youth? How did you spend your wealth? And fact check me on this. Don't like take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But they ask you like your prayers, right? Your wealth, your youth, your time, and what are you gonna say? I sat there and judged that girl for showing her hair. Like, girl, no. Put your time and effort, your energy, your money, and your youth towards better things, so that later on you can be like, yeah, I did this, and that, and fast track your way to Jannah.
You know, Randa, you
Jannah 101.
what's it called? Randa, you mentioned like, you know, the community is so judgmental and everything like that. Like, for this one time I went to the mosque and I was wearing pants, but they weren't tight pants, and like even if they were a bit, but like I was covering like till above my knee, you know? And this lady comes up to me and she's like, don't, if you're gonna wear that, don't even come pray here. Or like, if you're gonna wear that, go grab a skirt right now, your prayer is not gonna be counted. Like, you know, like if you're telling a girl that's 15 years old that, do you think she's like how would you make her feel? you know? Like, put yourself, before you even say anything, put yourself in that person's shoes, you know? After that happened, I didn't go to the mosque for like a year because I was like, whoa, like,
I'm not welcome there.
yeah. And like, I wasn't taught that, like, in the Pakistani community, we don't wear skirts. We just cover above till our knee, and then we pray, and it's Gucci. That's what I've been taught, and that's like, they need to be more open-minded and like understand that everyone is like doing their own thing, and you don't need to force yourself onto them and trying to prove that you're right.
There's also an etiquette and a way to give advice, and that was not it.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was just about to be like when you bring up these concerns in the Muslim community, they're just like, well, we're supposed to give people advice. You know, if we don't give people advice, Allah's gonna ask us. First of all, there's a way to give people advice, and most of the time, the way the people's understanding of giving advice is just really harsh, and it ends up pushing people away. It's not even the right way to give advice. And honestly, half the time, like when you like your story, for example, when you tell someone your prayer is not going to be accepted, that's not giving advice. That's you being judgmental. There's things you can give advice about, and there's things that are just none of your business. So you have to learn the difference as well.
Bassem, you mentioned patriarchy. How do you feel when a male talks about the hijab and criticizes women?
I would say it's none of your business. Okay, I think I like
Entire episode we're just like none of your business, none of your
for the perspective of someone who's never worn hijab, and I think this argument can go towards men and can also go towards people who've just never had the personal experience of wearing hijab, women as well. In your mind, it's very binary. It's either yes or no. It's either you're wearing it or you're not. It's either halal or haram, right? But for the perspective of someone who is wearing it, there's a lot more complication than that. There's personal aspects. There's life, you know, and life isn't always simple and straightforward. There's mental health plays a role as well in the way you practice your faith. Like, there's a lot of things. And so, as someone who doesn't have experience, you're not someone who's wearing the hijab, your advice and your perspective is not valuable here. No offense, but kind of offense. Like, your perspective is not valuable for us here. I would, like, if I want to have this conversation, I'm not going to go have it with a man.
Speaking of
I'm
men,
gonna have it with a woman who's never worn hijab before. I could have it with a woman who has contemplated wearing hijab, thinking about wearing hijab, has, done research and has formed a decision about that, but not to people who have nothing to do with it at all.
speaking of men judging women for wearing hijab, there's these channels on YouTube where they're just groups of men and they make commentary videos.
So they just gang up on these influencers.
Gang up on these influencers and judge them for every little thing, and they call what they're saying giving advice or correcting people's perception of Islam. And I'm just like, no, bro, that's not what you're doing. Your effort is just breaking up the Muslim community. So
Straight up, you're not supposed to give advice on a public platform.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to point out someone's sin in like a public platform and then give them advice in front of everybody, especially if it's something as what's the word, sensitive.
When Bassem, when you talked about patriarchy and everything, when you look at the ayahs in the Quran, the first thing that Allah mentions is He directs it towards men, you know? And the concept of patriarchy and everything like that, we'll talk about that in another episode, but it's just, they need to, it's not fair for you to, it's not fair for you to talk about something that you have not experienced, and it's not fair that you are talking about something that you've been told to practice first, but you cannot practice it yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, like why are you even looking at the woman? Why are you even looking at her hijab? Why are you commenting on her outfit? Why are you looking at it?
And especially in the social media space, like
Yes.
if you're going out of your way to follow a hijabi woman so that you could dissect how she looks and then make a video about it, like how even makes sense from an Islamic perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Ultimately, that's the whole, there's like two things: check yourself before you wreck yourself, and also mind your business.
You know, sometimes I feel like these men need some like women in their life that are like,
The thing
you
is,
know?
they don't bring women in their life that have that
Yes.
their opinions because they don't want
Yes.
to hear it.
Or they
They
don't
want,
allow the women in
or
their life to
or
have these opinions.
yeah, they want the innocence. They want the simplicity. They want just the one that stays in the kitchen, cooks,
Submissive,
cleans,
right?
and yeah.
But I remember one time someone asked me, they were like, "Do you think that men like to what did he say?" He was like, "There's this stereotype that men would rather go for more like girls who seem like more superficial than girls who are opinionated." And I'm just like, I don't think it has anything to do with that. It's just that guys have a big ego and they don't like to be challenged, especially guys like this, like the ones that we're talking about, and like in the influencer space, they just don't want to be challenged and they don't want to deal with a woman that has opinions.
And again, I feel like this might come towards hate speech towards those women. If this is not, I think more so than it's a woman with no opinions, more so it's a woman who was not allowed in her life the space to form an opinion, was given a very binary and, you know, one-dimensional idea of what it's like to be a woman, and she feels as though that's the way to be a woman.
Right.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to be concluding today's episode. Thank you, Bilsam, so much for joining us again and letting us pick at your brain. Thank you, Yasmin, for being here. It's your job to be here, but thank you anyways. So on today's episode, again, we discussed the hijabi influencer space, our opinions on it, if we should even be having opinions on it. And I hope you guys enjoy. Even if you skipped all the way towards this conclusion and didn't actually watch any part of the episode, if you're a hijabi woman watching this, whether you're struggling with your hijab or you're not, I think you're a queen. Stay doing what you're doing. Block out the haters. You got this, sis. And for anyone else who judges hijabi women, check yourself before you wreck yourself and stay in your lane. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Or else you're gonna
Stay in your lane. Yes, she gonna throw hands.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Anyways, okay.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys. Assalamualaikum.
Bye.